So you should get the automatic invite.
Oh, I've got an advert now.
Yes, there he is. So it should call him automatically. Ah, there we go.
There he is.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No
Hello.
problem. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I went to see my son's next school.
Oh, have we been doing that?
So we thought we wouldn't be there for very long, but ended up staying till it shut at 8. So bit of a mad dash getting home again.
Oh, no problem. We've had that going through and trying to sort all that out. It's good fun in it. And is it what, secondary school, high school?
Middle school.
Oh, you must be posh and have different schools.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you posh people down south.
Yeah,
up here we have pit. just choosing which pit they're going down.
So you're at school and up chimneys.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you're messing about for.
Oh dear.
Right, well, Jason and Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, good. So you're back from choosing schools. I'm back from choosing Pitfoot lads.
Kids don't know they're born.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They 1 year at school, Pitt writing scratch programs. Yeah, so
They could do all their learning on iPad.
Right, so I'm glad you're here. We've got lots to talk about this week. I want to talk about right, I want to talk about Seaton dropping plans for their Q entertainment system, new Logitech remotes, adding Google Chrome into Media Center, and the YouTube thing we talked about last week. We've got a couple of videos I want to mention from the user group, and some XBMC stuff for the Raspberry Pi. So I think, an iPlayer as well. So plenty to talk about. Hello to everybody in the chat room. Rich says, think it would be pad, not iPad. I think you're probably right there. Aye, lad. Right. I bet there's anybody that's not from the UK will be wondering what the hell we're going on about. I wonder if the accents, if you're not from the country, always sound the same. It's hard to tell, isn't it? So I wonder if a northern accent and a southern accent is all sort of the same thing to anybody that's not from the UK, or you can really tell the difference.
I think you need subtitles for some of them.
Yeah.
Americans, if it's like a regional show or a Scottish show, they tend to have subtitles as well, don't they? Because they can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think it was the I'll be the same pet. I think that did with it.
I saw Richard, who runs the Windows Observer website. I saw him tweeted today explaining that sarnie equals sandwich in the UK.
I saw an article actually on the BBC website that said there's a lot of English words creeping into the American language, and Englishisms, as they call them, so little phrases and little things like that. So and it's just sort of creeping into the language. So the way we say things is sort of, because we always think that the Americanisms get into our language, but actually it's going both ways.
I saw that. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Okay, so the first story I want to talk about tonight was quite... so back at CES, Seaton was probably the highlight of one of the highlights of CES for me. They had a fantastic demo, and I recorded a video with them of their Q entertainment system, which is an embedded entertainment system. We did a good half-hour demonstration, I think, of this, and the videos had thousands of, I think 10,000 views or something like that. So a lot of people interested in that. But something we've talked about on the show recently has been the sort of lack of commitment from Microsoft about Media Center. I think, although that's probably a mild way of putting it. And it seems though that lack of commitment has hit Seaton, because they've announced they're not going to be releasing the Seaton Q. I don't know that you've seen the Q and the sort of embedded systems, any of you two?
I had seen it. Have they actually dropped it, or have they just said it might not be out this year?
Well, what they said was, their quote was, while Windows Media Center is available with consumer version of Windows 8, it's still unclear whether whether Media Center will be offered in the next version of Windows Embedded. We expect that question would have been resolved now, but it hasn't. So what to do? And they've gone to say, we've been discussing a few different options internally for a while, and frankly, we haven't decided what the best path forward yet. What we have decided is that the Seat and Q, as previewed at CES, will not launch this year as we planned 10 months ago.
I think it's a real shame, but I must admit, I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of surprised in a way that that Seaton were going to bring out an embedded box, because clearly Windows Media Center's got a limited life now, and while I applauded what they were doing and I thought they were going to have a great product that maybe could have kept Media Center going, particularly really only necessarily within the enthusiast market, which is, although we know it's, in the few millions of users, it's still quite a small niche market. So it would have been really good to see something from them, because I would still love a Windows Media Center set-top box, stick under the TV. But I think it's just another reflection of where Windows Media Center is these days.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. I thought I was pleasantly surprised when they announced it, but I'm not surprised that it's sort of taking this turn at the minute, because like you say, there's no guarantees where Media Center is going to be in next year. So in terms of embedded systems, and the amount of the consumer, that they want this product is, like you said, is very limited. So out of the niche market, how many would actually be willing to buy the product as well, which would minimize it even more. So is it a profitable endeavor?
I think maybe the only contrary indicator for that is obviously, Seaton make a good business out of selling their cable card. So clearly they've got an indication from that what their market is. But even so, it's, if Media Center is going away, then surely the number of customers is also going to, dwindle from that point onwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That the Media Center enthusiasts that would love the Q is a small minority. But what I always thought that really, though, it wasn't necessarily aimed at the Media Center enthusiasts. It's just an embedded box that happens to run on be compatible with Media Center. Because even when I saw the demo, it didn't look particularly like Media Center. It was something else, really. And it just seems that the lack of commitment to the embedded product for Media Center and the embedded product is what's hit it. So it's not so much really the fact that the enthusiast community is shrinking somewhat. It's the fact that as a platform, it's maybe not something they can build on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been an interesting product to get out into the consumer market. Something you could just go and order off Amazon and whatnot. But I think it's easy for the enthusiast community to kind of get lost in how great Media Center is, and it is great. But I still think probably with kind of normal consumers, they just use their the box that their cable provider provides them. Now we look at those cable boxes and think, oh God, they're awful, and they don't do half the things Media Center does. But it's like most things, people will use what they're given and not necessarily even think to go looking. It's, let's say that Sky opened up their platform that it could work with Media Center. Would we see people switch into Media Center even though we know it does lots of things better than Sky Plus does, or would people just use the box that's been provided and installed at the point of sale?
I mean, yeah, using the box provided by a provider like Sky is the path of least resistance, definitely. And I mean, at the moment, it's the only choice. But even if it was opened up, I still think it would be. There still wouldn't be a massive uptake, I don't think. But it was a good question from Rob. He said, has Seaton mentioned how many of the new phone apps have been purchased to gauge Media Center market? And Rich said that would be an interesting stat. I imagine they now know probably what percentage or what the core market is for their products, because they know how many people have purchased the app. If you're an enthusiast of Seaton type products, you probably got the app. So they probably have a good idea now of what their core market is. So maybe that's part of it as well. And the second point, Richard, is under how Tranquil are doing. And I've sort of heard that they're really focusing on the business side now, and the consumer side not so much, especially around the media center boxes.
I think probably the way they need to probably go now is maybe focusing on the Echo, and because I think that'll be an easier market to tap into, because people will want, especially if they can get the device to perform some extra features that say the 360 extender isn't capable of. I'm sure they'll get a lot of people on board with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I'd love to have one of those boxes in our bedroom, or in the kitchen, or wherever it might be. I think there'd definitely be a market. And one thing I'm going to be really interested to see is I'm kind of expecting that when the new Xbox details start to come out, that maybe it won't even have the extender functionality in it.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if the next generation Xbox has got media center functionality. I'm very, very surprised.
Because then there's a potentially quite large market for Seaton to go after, because we saw what happened when the extender boxes started to go away, that people were buying them up left, right, and centre, kind of almost stockpiling them. Because people don't they don't want an Xbox in their bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, we hear that all the time now from an enthusiast at the time anyway, when the extenders were out, is that these people didn't want an Xbox in the bedroom. I suppose I wonder how much. I suppose you've got two markets, haven't you? You've got the enthusiasts like us who are prepared to perhaps build our own boxes based off Raspberry Pi or XBMC or Media Portal or whatever we decide to do, and then you've got just a normal consumer who wants a set-top box that will do things with their media that they've got in the home, and that's maybe where the Seaton box can work. But I think for the core enthusiast, you could almost do what the Seaton box does by building it yourself. But I suppose it's having that nice off-the-shelf box, like you said, that you order off Amazon, you hook up to your media center machine, and you're away. It's still a desirable object, and I just hope that Seaton get the sort of reward for the amount of development they've put into it, because they're the only ones doing any major development for media center at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with people like Daniel, pushing the alternatives to media center with Media Portal and everything, you can really see a market for an off-the-shelf repackaged Raspberry Pi running DVB Link software with XBMC or Media Portal or whatever it might be, and you can really see that being the next product that fills the media center gap.
Yeah, Daniel, do you think? Do you think the things that you've been working on, are they enough to sort of fill that gap?
In terms of functionality, yes, there's definitely enough there, but you still got the issue of it's still going to be a very niche market for us tinkerers, really, more than anything. So you're not going to get the widespread adoption with things like Media Portal. The only way I see possibly something like this happening from that area would be either Boxy or Google TV. I know Boxy are working on another product. I think it leaked this week. I don't know if anybody saw that, the Boxy TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that they're obviously still tapping into that. And that's all comes from the same sort of family from XBMC. So it's definitely potential there. But in terms of a consumer friendly thing, it's going to have to come from that side of it. Although it's the best of both worlds for us, because obviously we've still got options now, even though Media Center seems to be going away, like things like Media Portal, XBMC, and Linux based PVR systems are improving all the time, and I think that's there's still definitely potential there for us.
Yeah, I think that's certainly what I'm going to be doing, looking at the different ways of working. But if you've got a media center machine and you just want an extender in another room, then the Seaton box would be a great choice. I just suppose it's how many people are using media center with TV tuners at the moment, and that's got to be a fairly small market. But I suppose if you're using the Seaton tuner that with cable card, then getting the extender is a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree.
So I'll link to the Seaton article in the show notes. I really do think that really Microsoft have kind of let Seaton down a little bit by not committing one way or the other. Media Center's in Windows 8, so why not put it in the embedded system? I know that I did an interview at CES from Microsoft, and we just couldn't talk about they said there was nothing to talk about when it comes to the Windows 8 embedded. I mean, Windows 7 embedded is still around, so there's nothing to stop anybody using that as a platform. But I think, Seaton obviously decided to reevaluate it, and maybe in the next year they'll come out with a product that maybe isn't based on Media Center, but still based on Windows embedded with some of their own software, because they're doing a lot of good work with their software as well.
Didn't you post an article, Ian, saying that Windows 8 embedded wasn't going to be out for about, was it 18 months after RTM of?
Yes, yeah, that was right. Yeah, but it's you can get hold of it now. There is a preview available.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, I mean, with it being 18 months anyway, I wonder, does it, how that impacts Seaton's business plan? Because, even if it was going to be in the product, 18 months is a long time. I still wonder whether or not it would pay them just to get a product out the door, because what they showed off looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising. I mean, they're not dependent on Windows embedded. They could use Windows Embedded 7 with no problems at all. It's not like you need the current version for drivers or whatever, because it's a standalone box. So I don't. It's not an issue with them using 7, and it's still available. So maybe that's only a part of the story.
Yeah, it's got to be, because the other side to it is obviously Media Center in Windows 8 is no different to the one in 7 anyway. So it's not like they're waiting on any features or improvements either.
No, they could have just stuck with Windows 7. So yeah, maybe it's just a general feeling of the market that came in from Microsoft and everything else that's causing it. A question from Rob: has anyone tried Myth running on the Pi? Because Myth TV, in fact, we've got that as a story, and we might as well talk about that. I'll bring my notes up. Has anybody tried Myth TV running on the Raspberry Pi? I haven't tried that yet. I've only tried XBMC. I don't know if you've even had a look at that. Anyone?
I've not tried Myth on the Pi. I've tried Myth, and it's pretty tricky to get going. It's very, very menu driven, the installation, so I found it quite challenging, and I had some compatibility issues with my tuners, because I got to the point where I had to compile drivers from scratch for my TV tuners, which wasn't fun. So I didn't get very far. Well, I'd actually got them compiled, but then there was an issue and it wouldn't pick up anything. So I think if you have the right hardware, and a lot of people have great success with Myth, and it's probably the most popular Linux-based PVR server at the moment. It works very well, but it is a bit fussy in terms of hardware, so it's not going to be an overall general solution for everybody. Not yet, anyway.
I talked to when I was up at the Blackpool Linux user group, and there was a guy there who was running Myth, and I think it works like Media Portal, isn't it, where you can have a server and a client. And he said he had a Myth TV running as a headless server and then Myth TV clients. So I'm not sure you'd use the Pi as a server. I don't think it's really got the processor to record the streams, especially not if you're going to do like you did where you're recording tons of HD streams.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So the key to that, I would imagine, would be to have some kind of NAS box as a server capturing the TV, and then use Raspberry Pi client, so you get your Myth TV running on the Raspberry Pi. And so far, I found XBMC fulfills that sort of client role pretty well.
Oh yeah, in terms of the clients on the PVR build of XBMC, that all of those clients are available on there. So there's already a Myth plugin. Typically, when you install most versions of the PVR build of XBMC, you get most of the clients there. So there's a Myth one, there's one for TV head ends, there's there's a Media Portal one, there's a for the record, and so you pretty much got everything you need in the actual builds when you install it. So as long as you've got your back-end server running, that side of it shouldn't be too tricky to set up.
And the Myth TV update is 0.26 and adds HTTP live streaming, some UI performances, and bug fixes. So not a major update, but I think they have a fairly slow release process, don't they? So it does take a while for things to filter through on there. So I think that's if you're a Myth TV user, then it's worth getting hold of the update.
Yeah, definitely.
When you've used, have you tried running TV head end? Because I know that's sort of been added to all the Raspberry Pi builds now for the XBMC builds.
I did try it on. I did try it once, when I was running a Linux partition on my HTPC, and I had similar issues that I had with Myth TV in terms of hardware compatibility. I had to build drivers and so on and so forth. I didn't get that as far, as far as I could with it. I did find the process simpler because it was a lot more graphical UI instead of a lot of ticking a load of boxes and checklists and things. So a lot more automated, and it's got a lot of potential. But again, though, Linux-based PVR servers are not quite there in terms of hardware compatibility yet, which is a shame because I think there'd be a much more efficient way of running a PVR server. If on a dedicated machine, really.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's maybe where something like if you had DVB Link running on a Linux server, then that would maybe use their existing compatibility. Although I guess you've still got the problems of drivers and compiling drivers and things.
Yeah, you would do because they'd still have to start. I think they'd have to start from scratch anyway because they're based on the Windows drivers and stuff like that. So although I'm sure they could get the back end processes ported over, they'd have to work on a new solution for that, I would have thought.
Yeah. So we can't watch this TV channel. Yeah, I just need to recompile the driver.
Honestly, that's how it was with this. It's very frustrating when you got to, because I was running it on Ubuntu, and I believe it was my Freeview card was already in because you have to create a kernel module as well as creating compiling a driver. So it's pretty fiddly. Once you get it all going, there's lots of information and walkthroughs on, if you've got to write these command line scripts and things, but it's not something you'd be wanting to do. And also the other issue is if you update your kernel, you have to do the whole thing again because it takes the module out of the kernel again. So, and they do tend to update the kernel quite often on Linux. So I don't know what the answer is really. Definitely Windows at the minute because that's the more mature system for multimedia that way.
Yeah, I mean, what you want is probably ideal is something either Media Center or Media Portal at the back end, and then just with DB Link or something like that, and then be able to use whatever client that you need on the client side. So you could use your Windows tablet, you could use your Raspberry Pi, whatever fits them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So still want to touch on now remote controls. What, Jace, are you using any special remote controls with your Media Center setup?
No, because we just watch through the Xbox, so we just have the Xbox Media Remote. Although its two biggest frustrations is one, it doesn't have the green button, which you can work around quite simply. But the other one is it doesn't have a stop button. So when you're watching something that's recorded, you can't just stop to go back and then delete it or whatever you might want to do. So we're finding that quite frustrating. I might even look at picking up one of the cheap Xbox remotes, but no, just other than that, we just normally use the TV remote. I think we're kind of one of those households that has 3 or 4 remotes sitting around, but we tend to only be using one at a time, so it's not too much of an inconvenience.
Daniel, we're using the Media Center remote, I think, were you?
Yes, I just use standard Media Center remotes on to run XBMC, bizarrely.
Yeah.
And I've got it set up to fire the green button fires up XBMC or Media Portal, whichever I'm in the mood for at the time, and I complement that with just I use Hippo Remote app on the iPhone. I've still got my old iPhone for that, and that comes in handy if I just need to enter some text or anything like that, But what I did with the Media Center remote is I just remapped a couple of keys to add, because there's a couple of keys missing on XBMC, like the context menu isn't there. So I just remapped one of the keys to do that, and I also remapped another key to I mapped it to Alt F4 to close a window for things like Netflix and things. So if I'm running that in a browser, I click that button and it'll close it off for me. So I don't find any issues at all with I don't miss having like a keyboard or anything with that at all.
Yeah, because we talked about remotes on the show. We had some emails in about remotes. Logitech have just announced the Logitech Harmony Touch, which just look a very nice remote, but at 149 it's a bit on the expensive side. 149 quid for a remote, so you could buy a Nexus tablet for that price.
Yeah.
And run some tablet kind of thing. But it is fairly a nice solution. It's got a 2.4-inch touchscreen with gestures and things, and you could have customizable channel icons and logos and channel logos in there. So it even works with this Logitech TV cam, so you could use it with Skype. So it looks quite nice. And I know some people swear by the Logitech remotes, but it's just something I've never really felt the need to get. And yeah, this one at 149 quid looks great, but I can think of better things to spend my money on.
Oh, definitely. I really don't understand there's people with the obsession of trying to get everything down to one remote. I can understand it for convenience, but I've got about 3 remotes. So one for the telly, one for the AV amp, and I'm a bit like Doctor Who going around his TARDIS with pressing different things to get to get things working. But once you've done it, and you're there. Most of the time, you don't really need it once you. I've only got one input really. I think it's just the HTPC, so it's not really an issue. So, but if they were cheap enough, then yeah, I'd probably consider it. But it's crazy money spending £150 on a remote that'll just turn things on and off. Really? I don't know.
Jace, you fancy one of these?
Yeah, I mean, it looks really nice. But yeah, I'm with Daniel really. I think people complain about having to pick up a different remote, but it depends how many times in an evening or in a day do you switch inputs. Generally speaking, if you put a Blu-ray on or whatever it might be, then you're going to be watching it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it's not like you're constantly switching remotes. So I've never really seen the desire to cut down on them, but it certainly looks nice with a touch screen.
Yeah, but at 149 quid.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, you're literally £8 short of a Nexus 7, and you could get some remote control app. Almost. I think I'd rather just use 3 remotes and have the tablet.
I'm still waiting for it when the Xbox Connect can control everything.
Yeah, and keep waving at it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of luck with the Kinect, I must admit.
No. It's lucky in our household that it doesn't seem to recognise the kids' voices. Otherwise, we'd be having great fun trying to watch telly.
So I know a few people do like the Logitech stuff. So a link for that in the show notes. But I don't think it's going to be on my shopping list. Rich says he's using his trusty Media Center remote, and I'm still using my Vidabox keyboard. So I've got a PC keyboard, a remote keyboard, which I find works great. No problems with that. Right. So if you want to do talk about Media Center and integrating things. Last week on the show, we talked about the new YouTube TV view, which is the sort of 10-foot view that YouTube have got. And we've got a couple of posts up by Stuart, CW Kid, and he posted them up on the site, and how to add using a relauncher tool that you can download from madeformediacenter.com, and how to add the Google Chrome icon, and more usefully to add the YouTube TV setup, so that you can now from Media Center, using your Media Center remote, launch the YouTube TV site, and sort of all within Media Center, use the 10-foot interface, do the things that we talked about last week with the remote control through the phone, and all through your remote. So I think that's a really good tip if you're interested in the YouTube app. I must admit, YouTube it's not very often I would actually want to bother it with it from Media Center, but I suppose it's nice every now and again when you think, what was that video of that group in the 80s, and you can find it, but it's not often you think, let's sit down and watch some YouTube. Cats on bikes.
That's what the internet was created for, cats. Cat videos.
Anyway, so links for those in the show notes, and they're pretty useful on those. Just a couple of minor updates I want to mention as well is DV Link for iOS has been updated, which fixes the iOS 6 compatibility.
We have got some DV Link news as well.
Have you? Oh yes, you have. Go on, give us that now.
You want to talk about it now? Yeah. Well, I've mentioned in the past how get frustrated with the quality of the inbuilt Media Center guide. Not so much in terms of getting programs wrong, but in terms of quite often new shows are flagged up as repeats, which can be really frustrating. So I tried switching to using the DV-Link process of pulling the guide listings out of the broadcast feed. But again, I kind of run into a few snags with that, with kind of getting strange results with series links, whereby it would record the program we wanted, but also throw in random other programs, where DV-Link has tried to tag programs with the same ID, and it causes a series link conflict. So I wanted to give the DV-Link loader for DigiGuide a try, because not so much recently, but many years ago, I was quite a die-hard user of the DigiGuide PC client. I used to have it set up for watching when TV series came back on, also for reminders and things like that. So I wanted to give it a try, because like I say, I knew from experience that the guide data was really reliable, and it is. It's really solved all those problems. Unfortunately, it's the one downside to it we've hit is that because DV-Link and DigiGuide see them as individual channels, it doesn't tag programs on the +1 channel, so channel 4 +1, where it's running an hour behind. If you record, let's say, Homeland on channel 4, it will also record channel 4 +1, the same program, because it sees them as being two different shows.
Right.
The one thing I'm going to post on the DigiGuide forums is see whether or not they can change the +1 channels to show as repeats. But we've got a workaround to that, in that we set Media Center to only record shows on a specific channel. But that doesn't necessarily always work, because sometimes you want Media Center to, if it misses, say, a program on ITV1 because of a scheduling conflict, normally Media Center is intelligent enough to know it can record it on the +1 channel, because it knows the ID is the same. So it means that we lose some functionality. Right. And I did post on the DV Logic forums, but unfortunately at the moment Oberon hasn't got any bandwidth to address that issue, whereby he can match the program names and flag them with the same program ID. But apart from that, I mean, the guide data is just as accurate and just as reliable as I expected it to be.
That, because I noticed a problem recently with, because I'm now an occasional user from Media Center, because the Skybox does majority of the recording. A lot of the time I go into Media Center, it's only got a few channels of EPG data. So say BBC Transponder hasn't got any data at all. What you seem to have to do is go into the channel, start watching it for 5 minutes, and then it starts to download the in-band data, and it says, "Oh, the EP it's not being pulled down properly." So this may be sort of that problem out where it's forgetting shows that would only be occasionally recorded because they don't go on the box very often. So that would actually solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean the process runs as a I guess some kind of scheduled task on our home server, and as I say, it pumps the data down to Media Center Great, and it's just unfortunately there's just this one little niggle, which is kind of impacts the experience.
And Rich said he's having a real problem with repeats. He's trying to work out how to edit the guide so I can prevent it from recording "Come Down With Me" and blame it on Microsoft.
Yeah, I could do with that one.
Now this is whenever I load my Media Center, all I see is hundreds of episodes of "Come Down With Me" because I think I set it once to record, and because I don't use it all the time, that's all the bloody hell it records.
Well, it's funny actually that Richard mentioned that, because that's actually one of the shows that causes me the biggest grief, because my wife has it set to record new episodes, and there seems to be like two series have come down with. There's one where there's a half an hour each day, and then there's one where it's on for about an hour or so, just one night. And what would happen is the episodes that were on daily, say Monday through Friday, it wouldn't record, say, Thursdays, because the Media Center guide data got it flagged as a repeat.
Yeah, I had exactly the same problem.
So, I really wanted to move away from the Media Center guide data, and I know there are places where you can give feedback, but who has time to keep going through the guide and reporting errors in it? You just, it's one of those things. If you're comparing Media Center to set-top boxes, you need it to just work. And as I say, the DigiGuide data is really good, really reliable, but it's just this problem whereby it's actually recording. I mean, we had about 4 things recording at one point, and things not recording because some of those things were on the +1 channel that it actually recorded, the hour before. So it's a bit frustrating, and I kind of said to Oberon, it's a shame really, because in a way I think I'm going to have difficulty persuading my wife that it's worth spending the money on this when, it's got a flaw in it that, should be relatively easy to fix, and hopefully, hopefully they can do that. I know he says that he's fixed it on the inbuilt DV-Link recorder, so hopefully he can just apply the same logic to Media Center.
Yeah, and Rob says he used DigiGuide with his old Ericsson T38i to set reminders via Outlook. Yeah, it's been around for a while, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I mean, it's been around for at least 10 years.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm going to have to give the DigiGuide a go then, because that has been a problem with my Media Center machine. That's because I'm not constantly watching it, and it's not pulling down guide data. Everything, some things do get missed, so I think I'll have to have a look at that.
Definitely worth trying. I mean, DV-Link offer a 20-day trial of the importer, and if you at the same time DigiGuide have a 7-day free trial of their TV service, so you can trial it for 7 days for free if you install both at the same time.
Oh, that's good. And Rob says when you're using the loader, or something like Big Screen for DigiGuide, how did you stop the MS one from being downloaded and overwriting the one we downloaded? I think in DV-Link you can pick your source.
Yeah, normally in the DV-Link configuration you pick, you basically configure the guide and assign a source to a channel. And the way that DigiGuide, I can't get my things mixed up. The way DV-Link integrates in Media Center, it should prevent that from happening, because it actually assigns, let's say it's ITV1, it actually assigns it as the guide source as being ITV1-DVB-Link. So it should prevent that from happening.
Oh, that's it's worth having a play about with it again, and certainly have a go at the trial version.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. If you can live with having to force the recordings to work only on a specific channel, then for me that's the only downside that I've discovered.
I suppose the other option to look at would be if you did XML TV, maybe what the XML TV quality is like, and you could either use DV-Link, or you don't even have to. You could just import it straight into Media Center.
That's what I used to do when I had when I was using DVB-Link and Media Center. I pulled it was quite good actually. I used a separate app called. I didn't use the built-in one. I used a separate app called EPG Collector, and I pulled all the data from the Sky guide via the Open TV. I used to pull it at about 3 a.m. And then that would get imported into DVB Link, which then obviously sent it across the media center, and you could use the series link feature and stuff like that through that, and it's pretty much the same thing I'm doing now with Media Portal, though it's totally integrated into Media Portal, but it gets exactly the same guide data that I used to get before anyway. So it's very accurate. As I said, if you use it, and it uses the Open TV standard, and you can use a series link from Sky, which I never had any conflicts and issues or missed recordings, because it used to pick up via the ID from that, which was pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's a good solution. There's lots of different ways of doing it, and it's kind of tinkering around to find one that kind of suits the best way with the best scenarios that you come across the most. So it's definitely something you can experiment with.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, particularly in our household, it's just another pressure point to not use Media Center, which is a shame. It would be really nice to get a good solution that was fully reliable, when really that should be the Media Center's own guide data. But I guess again it all comes back to the fact of how much support is there really for Media Center.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, keep us up to date on that one. How you get on with that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll try and get a post up.
Right. We'll come back to sort of some TV stuff on XBMC and the Raspberry Pi, but Diehard just joined the chat room and mentioned that I think you posted as well, Jason, that Windows Server 2012 Essentials RTM is available today.
Have we seen any prices? I guess probably too soon, isn't it? Although I guess it's going to be mainly an OEM channel product, I would think.
Yeah, this is right. So we really need Andrew to explain on the different versions of these. The Windows Server. Yeah, the 2012 Essentials is the one that's got the backup, hasn't it, and the DLNA stuff built into it. So this is the kind of the home server equivalent, and I seem to remember that was about 400 and something quid, wasn't it? I think we've had some prices. I'm got in the back of my mind.
I know there've been some speculation of what price point it might be based on what Windows Server 2011 Essentials was, but I'm not sure there's been any specific pricing mentioned. But I was kind of finishing up for the day when I actually saw the news break that it had gone gold, so I haven't actually followed up.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is the one that's got all the bits in, isn't it, with the remote access and online backup and all that kind of stuff. This is the nice one, the storage spaces and things.
Yeah, although I think probably the biggest missing feature from my perspective would be the tuner support that they added back into Windows Server for Windows Home Server. So I'm not sure it would support tuners. Right, I would have thought it would have done I thought it would have used the same drivers as Windows 8. But well, no, I know Windows Server itself doesn't. It doesn't have the BDA infrastructure. Of course, that's what it needs, isn't it? Yeah, and that's what they specifically put into Home Server, which it was nice of them to do that. There wasn't really any need for them if Media Center wasn't getting integrated. But I would imagine that it's been pulled from Server 2012 Essentials. Yeah, you're probably right, because there's no. That's not something they're ever going to look at, and I know why the tuner support was added, because, in Vale, because that was maybe the potential direction that the product might go in. I can say it that way, which never did go in that direction, so that's why it was added. But like you said, it's probably not. It's not if it's because it is Windows Server 2012 and it's not in the core product. Then there's no chance of it being added specifically for this. No, exactly, because I did try Server 2008 R2 to see if I could use that in place of having a home server, purely because I wanted access to the Hyper-V stuff, and I just couldn't get the tuners to work. There are some articles around for how you copy files off a Windows 7 box into it, but it looked like it was a solution that was quite frequently broken by patches and whatnot. So like I say, I would imagine that's missing from 2012 Essentials.
Yeah, so it really is your really it's sort of your server box with backup and whatever. If you wanted to do a kind of a tuner box, then you're much better looking at a Windows 8 box.
Yeah.
So they've announced that it's Essentials is RTM'd, and you can download a trial copy from the Evaluation Center, and if you're an MSDN or TechNet subscriber, you can actually download the full version as well. So the product highlights, Microsoft says dynamic work style access from your devices using remote web access. It's got online backup and Windows 8 file history. Integrates with Office 365, storage spaces, run line of business applications, and it's based on Windows Server 2012, and you can deploy it with 19 languages, all releasing simultaneously. So I wonder how many people are actually going to bother to, how many enthusiasts are really going to bother to build this into a home box now. I'm just, I think if I was building a new Now style box, I would probably go for Windows 8 or just build a Linux box.
Yeah, I think the one advantage to Essentials 2012 is that if you're looking to deploy Windows 8 in your house, the Windows 8 Metro Media apps don't play very nicely with Home Server 2011. And even if you reconfigure to use home group sharing, even then it's can sometimes be a bit hit and miss. Whereas with Essentials 2012, it does work out the box. So I would, I can maybe if people were using Home Server via their TechNets or MSDNs, I think for them it would certainly be worthwhile, trialing it and seeing. But yeah, I think it's really aimed at a different market. It's really a small business market it's aimed at.
Yeah. And I think we will get especially now that's got out. We'll try and get us all together on one show just to talk about sort of server options and NAS options, and put a few of these together head to head and see which is the best. Some options for us going forward if you're going to build sort of your home network and a storage system are based around it.
Yeah, I think we should get Andrew on the show and he can tell us which one he's going to trust his dance training videos to. Well,
he's obviously going to need a lot of backup for that. There's a lot of data. It's all in high HD as well because he doesn't want to lose that sparkle.
Oh, thank God he didn't say 3D.
Don't even want to think about it. Right, I've got a serious question from Rich in the chat room. Has anybody cracked booting straight into Media Center on Windows 8 yet? I certainly haven't.
Has anyone got Media Center on Windows 8 yet?
No, not on the RTM version.
I've got it on the Iconia using a version I obtained, but I've not found any legitimate ways of doing it.
No, it's I don't think Windows 8 will let you boot into anything other than the Metro desktop. There's no. I think that's hardwired into it, unless somebody finds a nice hack.
Yeah, I think probably even if you set something to run in the startup group, I think it would still load in the background. They really don't want you bypassing that screen because if it was possible, it would be used.
Yeah,
I'm sure OEMs would put it onto machines so that it boots straight to the desktop.
And I've got programs that load in the startup group, and they load in the background, and then the last as Windows finishes initializing, the last thing it does is show the Windows 8 desktop, and everything else is behind that. Which always looks really weird when you look at multi-monitors because you can see the things still going on in the background.
Yeah, I wonder if it's possible to do it using some kind of shell script like PowerShell or something as a startup script.
I don't think so. I think they've made a great deal of effort to make sure that it just boots straight into that environment.
Yeah, I'm just thinking whether or not you could
do a timer or something, so after 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if PowerShell has some kind of way of addressing the icons on the start screen
so left click. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I use PowerShell quite a bit, but I'm no way experienced. But I would have thought it probably, if there's a way to do it, that would be your path, because PowerShell is their version of a command line environment that can do everything that the Windows UI can do.
Yeah. No, but I'm not aware of that. So anyway, just on the server, if anybody gives it a try, let us know how you get on with that, and I'll include a link for the downloads in the show notes. Right, a few XBMC items before we disappear. OpenELEC 2 release candidate 1. Now, we talked about OpenELEC, and there's various. OpenELEC is XBMC, embedded XBMC platform, and there's various flavors of it. There's ones for Intel, ones for Extrema, there's ones for the Raspberry Pi, Apple TV, and so on. So they have had an update, and which is release candidate, and that uses things like the new Linux kernel or an updated Linux kernel. It includes TV headend, as we were talking, some updates to the decoders, sound decoders, and things like that. So I think they're getting close to releasing this, and I think once this is released, then we can get a new build for the Raspberry Pi. Daniel, what were you using Raspberry MC for yours?
Yeah, I was using Raspberry MC.
Because as well as Raspberry MC, which is what I've been using, I was talking to someone at the user group, and they mentioned one to me, and I got around to checking it out over the weekend, is Dark Elec. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, that's isn't that a fork of OpenELEC, which adds some plugins and things like that to it?
Yeah, exactly. And from what he was saying to me was that he's been trying all the different plugins, the different XBMC builds, and so far this is the one that has sort of everything worked for him out of the box, whereas other systems he had some like video skipping and other various sort of minor issues, but they were there. So there was actually a new build of this fairly recently. I think they're on the second build of it, but basically it's a fork, like I said, it's a fork of OpenELEC, and it's got things like low idle usage, built-in iPlayer, Demand-Fi is already pre-installed, ITV player, and it's sort of an easy image you can just download. I haven't tried it yet. I've downloaded it and not actually started playing with it yet, but and you can get all the source as well. So it looks quite nice. It's nice to have an alternative.
Yeah. I believe the sort of mentality behind OpenELEC, it's quite clouding, or they at least make it very difficult to add extra plugins and things, because their focus is on the stability of the system. And from what I hear, it is a very stable system. But obviously this fork is trying to appease to the people who are wanting to add a little bit more functionality into there. But I think it's still quite closed, but they've done all the testing on all the different plugins. So it's no surprise that people have found them to be pretty stable and working.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously if you go down the Raspberry MC route, you're free to add whatever you like, and there's certain things that just don't work as well as they could, and other things that do work okay. But you're taking your chances there because you're adding it yourself.
Another one that I've come across now, I heard of this one before, but I hadn't actually got a chance to write up about it, is Expion, and 0.8.1 was released over the weekend, and it's kind of back after being a bit of a falling out with the Raspberry MC guys.
Yeah, I read about that. There was something to do. It was a bit. I think it was just a little bit of lack of courtesy that happened over a couple of. I think it was something to do with the installation menu or something like that. He didn't credit anybody, but I don't know too much about it. I know they're all very similar. It's just in terms of they're just built up from the same sources, but I don't know if it's. Some people have said it's faster than Raspberry MC and OpenELEC, but I've not actually tried it. So, I think it'll depend on your point of view. I think people are starting to fall into different camps when it comes to it's bizarre, since the Raspberry Pi came out and XBMC builds have become so popular, we're starting to see people dividing into different camps of which build they prefer, which is very strange for a little device like that. But as long as the progress keeps going forward, I suppose that's the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing, isn't it, about the Pi, is that it does keep getting developed and people are bringing out new things all the time. But yeah, it is funny watching these groups, and when you read their forums and blogs, and you can see them sort of taking a few shots at each other. At the end of the day, it's it's a niche of a niche, but never mind. It's perhaps what keeps these guys going and bringing out new versions is a bit of a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
It perhaps takes us back to the old days of Spectrum fans versus BBC Micro versus Commodore 64. We all had our groups.
Yeah, that was the day.
Yeah. How many of you have one of these, though? Micro Drive. See, that's proper storage. Anyway, we talked about them before we went on. So I'll include a link for those in the shorts, and I'll be interested to see hear what people's thoughts are with those, and we put them all together. Right, just a couple of fun things before I wrap up. We briefly mentioned Google TV. Now, I'm quite surprised at how long this has taken, but Google have added Google Play Movies, Google Play TV shows, and Google Play Music to the Google TV, which is, I think it's about time. I was actually first, I had to kind of check. Are we sure this isn't already in there?
Oh, this is because the other what was the other device they were going to release? I can't remember what it's called now.
Oh, that was gonna circular thing.
Yeah, that was going to do all of that, and then that's got pulled. So that I think they've decided they may as well integrate these features into Google TV, which they should have done in the first place, really, instead of bringing out that device. What was it called again?
Q, was it? Was it the Q?
It was a Q. Yeah, it was the Q. Yeah.
I wish I'd ordered one of them because I think they gave everybody that did order one for free.
They did, yeah. I had it ordered too.
yeah. Rob says Q. Yeah, so it was a Q. Yeah, so I suppose it makes sense. I never quite understood why they had a separate product like that and had Google TV, why they didn't make their own Google TV that had this functionality in. But I'm still really not seeing a great uptake on Google TV. But adding this in, which gives it a proper back-end store with video store and everything else, and I think you can see purchases and everything else. So I think that really does make the box a bit more useful.
No, definitely, yeah.
And the final story of the week I want to mention is BBC iPlayer have launched a dedicated radio app. I think there's a site and there's an iOS app and an Android one on its way. So it's like the iPlayer app, but just stripped down to the radio, which I think is probably quite a good idea, especially if you're a big radio listener. Yeah,
if it minimizes your footprint as well, if it makes it a little bit nippier, if you're not interested in the TV side, I suppose it makes sense to split them in two, if you're going to get a bit more performance out of the app as well.
Yeah, and I think it's got things like there's an alarm clock in it, and a few bits and pieces that sort of add a bit of extra, like a radio dial and a bit of extra functionality in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll link for that in the show notes as well. Okay, so I think that was all the topics I wanted to talk about tonight. It was a good show tonight. So I think we need to prepare a show for the future, looking at these home storage ones, and maybe one to look at the various TV options for Raspberry Pi and for Linux and those kind of things. So thanks to everybody who enjoyed it in the chat room. I'm going off now to plug in my Spectrum and do some real computing. And Micro Drive.
See in about 2 hours when it loads.
Yeah, well, the other night I decided to get my BBC Micro working, and I loaded in the Star Wars game. I think it's Empire Strikes Back, and it took nearly 20 minutes to load this thing and go.
I tell you what, that was a great mod I saw at the user group where they got the ZX Spectrum loading games off a flash drive.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get one of those.
That was amazing.
Yeah, because I was talking to Jason there. He said basically if they didn't do that, then no one would play with it. So nowadays, you would not wait for it to load a game up.
Could you imagine being able to go back in time and give that to yourself?
Oh, yes. I definitely would enjoy that. I thought perhaps it takes away some of the fun of the old days waiting for the games to load and being able to recognise the sound of school days loading and match day and all. I could you could play me. I could tell you which was match day and which was school days if you play me the WAV file. That's a bit sad, but I do remember it.
I remember a friend of mine bought one of the mods for the Commodore cassette deck where you could move the head slightly. It allowed you to adjust the position of the head so it got a cleaner read on the tapes. It was
high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, before we go, I am thinking of putting together a podcast focusing on vintage computing. So your Spectrums and Commodores and BBC Micros and that. So I'm looking for anybody that's interested in joining the show. I'm not sure whether I'll be actually in the hosting or just putting it together. Anybody's got things they want to talk about, any ideas for the show, and we'll perhaps put something together over the next few weeks and maybe do a pilot and see whether there's maybe a month. I was thinking to maybe a monthly show featuring one particular thing. So this month we're doing the Spectrum, next month we do whatever, and then there's events on around the country and whether we talk about some of the events that are coming up and anniversaries and things. So anybody's got any ideas or thoughts on that, let me know, because I'm quite keen on doing something like that and getting a show outfit like that.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, I think there's enough of us of a certain age that would enjoy. I'm getting into nearly 22 now, so come on.
Wow, out your teens.
Yeah. See, Gary, I think Gary was interested, but I said, really, paper tape and stuff is not what we want to do. Abacuses and things.
It's good job it's only a monthly show. It's taking that long to load the program for the next show.
So anybody has suggestions, let me know, ian@thedigital-lifestyle.com. So before we go, just tell us where we can find you, Daniel. Where's the best place to catch up with you?
You can find me all over Twitter. I'm at Dangelus. And I also blog on my site, which is www.dangelus.com. And you'll find links to a couple of podcasts on the go and a couple of blogs on the go, and you'll find all the links there.
Excellent. And Jace, where do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace and occasionally posting on the Digital Lifestyle.
When you're not playing on your Samsung tablet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you know, we've gone through a whole hour show and you've not mentioned Windows Phone 8 once.
I know, I've been biting my tongue.
I thought there was just nothing to talk about. We've got an official...
There's a few things, but no, I've kept quiet. 20 days and counting.
But you can't wait. Well, maybe next week we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we got. And then what is it? It's 17 days till Windows 8.
Yep. I think you've got one of those countdowns, haven't you, on your phone? Like you get kids have for Christmas. You've got one for Windows Phone 8. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining both of you, and thanks everybody in the chat room. See you back 8 o'clock UK time next Tuesday evening.
See you later.
See you soon.
Great stuff. That was really good. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. Shut it down.